Day 2 of our Disney fantasy cruise took us to Disney's private island, Castaway Cay, where Day 3 will now take us to their very newest island, Lookout Cay at Lighthouse Point.
An entirely different experience, something so unique and so exciting. We can't wait to share it with you. So come along on our journey on the island of Eleuthera at Lookout Cay.
Hey everyone, thanks for joining us again as we continue our series recapping our journey on the Disney Fantasy this summer. And as we mentioned in our intro, this time we are going to be recapping our very first visit to Disney's newest island destination, Lookout Cay at Lighthouse Point on the beautiful island of Eleuthera in the Bahamas. It was breathtaking, absolutely stupendous, and we'll, of course, go throughout our day as we continue on this, but any day at Lookout Cay is going to start with probably what has become the most famous part of that island. Not something that's even part of the island, it's the long walk on the pier.
Now, this pier is a very long pier compared to anything that we walked at Castaway, and there's a very good reason for that. Now, the biggest part is because they're trying to help rebuild the reef beneath that whole system. So they're creating reef nurseries and then taking some of those and helping to bud new areas. And then natural wildlife is coming back in and revitalizing that area. Parts of the island that hadn't seen certain species are seeing them start to come back in larger numbers. Disney's got an entire animal science department that is working with different conservationists on Eleuthera to monitor these conditions and make sure that nothing they're doing is harming the environment and is only there to help encourage and protect and help grow this particular area. So it makes for a really unique reason and then a really unique experience, because as you take that long walk, while it may be painful to some if you don't enjoy walking, you get the most breathtaking views and you get to see so much natural environment, not just with the pristine, clear blue water, but also the animals. There are so many different animals that you can see as you walk along the pier.
Yeah, we were lucky enough to get to see some of the fish as we walked along. If you remember back to our Castaway video, if you've seen that one. If not, we'll link that down below and above if you're watching on mobile. You can go check that one out. You saw some fish out in Castaway. Here, you see a lot more species of it, because one of the big things that's different of the water, at least at this island against Castaway, Castaway is a lot more secluded and surrounded by barriers, whereas Lighthouse Point is all open ocean. So you're going to get a lot of the natural wildlife there. We saw some, I have no idea what kind of fish they were. There were some fish there.
A large school of them.
Yes, have seen, though, in some of the videos preparing for our first trip, we've seen there are barracudas that will go around the oceans as well, too. So we definitely kept an eye out for those. Luckily, we didn't see any of them. We've seen the beginning of Finding Nemo enough not to mess with any of those if we ever see them coming. But it was so much fun to be able to see the fish out there, our kids trying to interact with them and watch them and run along with them as they go by on that pier, which it really helped make that almost mile-long walk on that pier go by a lot quicker. And that journey to the destination, sometimes it takes a while, but being able to look at everything and continuously see, oh, now I'm this far away from the ship, was a lot of fun getting us down that really long pier.
Now, it also gave a lot of really good opportunities if you turned back to look at the ship for great, fantastic photo opportunities.
Yes.
So you had the whole ship in view. You could do the front or the back of the boat. At Castaway, you really got a better view of the back of the boat. Here at Lookout, you could really get a great view of the front of the boat. So it made for really good photo contrast as well, just in that. And again, our kids enjoyed getting to do this walk, even though it was a little bit longer. Our youngest still is in a stroller at Disney, and she enjoyed this walk because she got to watch the wildlife. If you do have mobility concerns, though, they do have like golf carts that can take you to the tram stop or back from the tram stop to the boat. So just make sure that you look for those and request that service, because they will be able to bring you to and from those locations. They also have little like wagons if you need to, if you have a lot that you're carrying to the beach, that you can carry your belongings in, or if you have small children and they want to ride. they can also ride in those up to the tram stop. So not too terrible. The day that we went, the sun was out, but it wasn't beating down on us. We had a nice cool breeze. And again, the beauty of the area just was breathtaking enough that it distracted us. And so it didn't matter to us.
Yeah, it was hot and it was sunny, but you care a little bit less about it when you're able to see such beautiful ocean waters. Well, so after that walk, you actually get up to the very front entrance area of Lookout Cay, which is essentially a little, I want to call it a check-in area.
Like a welcome center.
Yeah, a slight little welcome center.
Yeah.
Where you have one shop there, aptly known as the First and Last Chance Store, in case you forgot something on the ship or you forgot something coming out of Lookout Cay. There's a little bit of merchandise there. But after you get there, if you look over towards your right, you will actually see some of the cabanas that are for the island too, which are very far away from the rest of the areas that we'll get to in a second where we end up venturing to. So that is something to keep in mind. If you are doing the cabanas, you're away from dining, entertainment, shopping. You get some of your own dining options there, but if you want to see the rest of the island, you will have to catch the tram regardless to be able to get into any of that area. And so, now that we talked about that tram, let's go ahead and hop on a ride there as we go out to the family beach area and begin the rest of our time in the waters of Lookout Cay.
Now, I hope you guys enjoyed that little glimpse into our tram ride. We definitely did. It was a little bit lengthier for us, but we really enjoyed getting to listen to the characters along the tram ride as well. These characters were specifically developed based on the animals that are in the natural environment in this part of Eleuthera to kind of share the history, the cultural elements, and some of those really cool environmental facts about this area with you. We'll share a few of those later, but that was really entertaining just to get to listen to as we're driving out to the beach to start. Our kids loved this part of the travel.
Yeah, and like Jen said, it was a slightly lengthy ride. I would say 7 to 10 minutes tops at that, and you're going through a lot of the more natural environment area, so there's a lot of trees and such, and you start to see glimpses of the beach area as you go along. And we were dropped off pretty much the midpoint of the family beach area, so if you went towards your right, you would head towards True Barbecue 1, the far right side of the family beach, and also the kids' water play area, Rush Out, Gush Out, which we will talk extensively about later because we went there. It was
so much fun.
It was a lot of fun, even for us adults. And we may have a little bit of a peek of one of the slides there for you, too, to come up. We actually went more towards the center and left when we came in, which takes you more towards the shopping areas, the Goombay Cultural Center, which it has a look at more interactive exhibits of the actual cultural impact of Eleuthera, and the Junkanoo Festival, which we'll talk a lot more about later.
Definitely.
As well as some of the character representations in the Junkanoo art style. So Mickey, Minnie, the rest of the Fab Five are all decorated out there as some photo spots for you as you will make your way towards the water.
Now you'll also find True Barbecue 2 over that direction, and if you keep going all the way down Serenity Bay, the adults only section of the beach, it is way down there at the very end.
Yes.
So if you're planning on going to the adults only section, just know you got to plan for not only that walk on the pier and the tram ride, but the walk down all the way to the end of the beach.
Yeah, that's one big difference from Castaway to Lookout is this island is a lot more spaced out in terms of where things are, just because this island was developed to try and keep as much of the natural environment intact as it was. That was an agreement that Disney had with the Bahamian authorities to make sure that that stayed that way. So you got a little bit more walking to do here and some traveling.
Definitely
in
more
areas.
lengthy, not as compact. And again, that's because this particular location is not a private island. It is a private beach on the island of Eleuthera in the Bahamas. So you'll get to, some people can, if you want to do one of those private excursions, you can do all kinds of activities on the island itself too, and learn more about the culture and the history of Eleuthera and the Bahamas. Or you can stay more towards the beach area, which is what we tended to do this time with our kids. And for the first time, when we go again, because we definitely will go again, we might look at doing some other excursions, depending on the time of year. That's something that a lot of people did and really enjoyed. We heard some of those stories coming back on the boat later in the day. But this is one of those spots that you can go do excursions to, as well as all the activities on the beach and in the private section of the island that we're going to share with you that we did.
Yeah. Well, so that's everything we see as we get into the family beach area. But I think that's enough talk about what's around the family beach area. Let's go ahead and go get in the water now, because that's where the rest of our morning was pretty much spent up until lunchtime. So let's go get into the open ocean of the Atlantic in the Caribbean. So we'll spend some time out in the water with you guys, and we'll come back and talk about the rest of our morning in just a second.
So as we said before, most of our morning was spent here on the beach. We were building sandcastles. We were out in the ocean. Now, something to keep in mind with this particular part of the beach, we did get out a little bit later than we did at Castaway, but it was a little bit harder to find seats. That could be partially because, again, we got out a little later, but I think it was also because there's just so many people, and I don't know that there were as many chairs directly in that center area where we kind of went. Maybe if you walked a little further out, there was a little bit more space. But we kind of stayed pretty central. If you're planning on staying towards that central area where there's a lot of things, like the Goombay Cultural Center and the food, it's going to be pretty packed and pretty busy and harder to find chairs. So just keep that in mind. Another thing to keep in mind is when you're getting out into the water, this is not in a protected cove like at Castaway. So you are going to get choppier waters, kind of like if you were at the beach out on the Atlantic. It's not going to be like Gulf where it's a little bit smoother depending on your location in the Gulf. It's definitely going to be choppier, especially depending on if there's any storms brewing out at sea. If you have younger kids or not as stronger swimmers, they will definitely want a life jacket. You will definitely want them to have a life jacket. And those life jackets are not as readily out and available on the beach as they are at Castaway. They don't have them on those little stands. There's one or two stands.
I think I saw one in our area where we were at after we had already found a jacket.
Right. So one thing you can do is if the stand is empty of life jackets, you can go to one of the rental areas and they have plenty of them in the back, and you can ask for one and you can just bring it back when you're finished to that rental area, or you can hang it up on the life jacket little hanging rack for others to use. But that water, amazing. So beautiful, so much wildlife. It was my favorite.
Yeah, it's the right shade of blue that you would think about whenever you're trying to look at ocean water. It was clear. It was a lot easier to look at. We'll throw in some of the views that we had in the water in just a little bit, but it was a lot of fun going out there. Like Jen said, it was a little choppier, but adds to some of the thrill out there for us and our kids. They were enjoying it. But one of the best things to look for while you're on the beaches of Lookout Cay is the Bahamian pink sand. This is something that was teased on our tram by some of the characters that were on there, talking about the natural pink sand that it comes from the island. Its breakdown of different microorganisms causes the sand to turn pink. So if you take your hand and you scoop up a bunch of sand and you kind of separate it out, there is a pink tint to it. We actually were able to bring some of it home in a souvenir that we were able to purchase later in the day, which you'll see in another video, which we'll do our haul of all of our DCL merchandise, of course. But it was such a cool thing to see pink sand. It's not something we get around here in the United States. So a very unique experience of being on the beach and finding something true to the Bahamian culture and the environment in which we're in. Well, so that was pretty much our time in the open ocean. Just a bunch of play, some sandcastles, like Jen said, swimming back and forth. But after that, we worked up quite the appetite.
Definitely.
So we had a little bit of a later breakfast, but we wanted to make sure we did a lunch according to time because we had plans for later in the day that we'll talk about, of course. So we got out of the water and we made our way over to True 2 Barbecue, which, if you've seen our Castaway video, you're probably going to understand what we're going to have here, but we're going to go take you there now so we can see everything we had on the island of Eleuthera. All right, so as I said, we went to True 2 Barbecue for our lunch while on Lookout Cay, and this is very similar to the lunch that we already had at Castaway, if you remember watching that video and talking about Cookie's Barbecue over there. Pretty similar setup where there's different lines, except this time it's not every line goes to the same kind of foods. There's kind of like Tomorrowland's Cosmic Rays Starlight Cafe, there's the different bays. Kind of works like that, where one bay may have your more Bahamian cuisine. One has your burgers and hot dogs. The other one has like seafood and rice bowls and things like that. So some different options for you to choose from. And there was a lot of different things here that we enjoyed. Specifically, there were more Bahamian cuisine options here. We're talking pigeon peas and rice that Jen's dad got and he really enjoyed. I had some gumbo or jambalaya, I forget exactly which one it was. Had some seafood in it. It was really good.
I had fried okra. Yeah, and
Jen,
I could eat that all day.
Jen got excited about the fried okra. Being the Southern girl as she is, okra in fried form is a staple of Southern cuisine. So getting it on the island was a treat for her too. But why don't you tell us anything else that you had on your plate too?
It's very similar to what I had at Castaway, minus the fact that I had the okra. I just kind of piled that on double to make up.
I even got her some extra, thinking, oh, she's not going to see this. I'll play good husband and bring her more. And
I already found it.
Yeah.
So I ate both. I'm not going to leave any of it empty. I ate both of them. And I was very full afterwards, but very happy as well. Then I had the corn and black bean salad that I had at Castaway. Again, still very good. I had, was it a watermelon and cucumber salad? Again, fantastic, very, very fresh. There was fresh pineapple, tons of other more fresh fruits than there were at Castaway. And Castaway had fresh fruit. This had even more fresh fruit. The pineapple just alone was so sweet and juicy. And you know how sometimes you can get pineapple that's got like a bite and it like creates a sore spot in your mouth? This was not that kind of pineapple. This was the really, really good kind of pineapple that's, again, it's just so good and juicy and sweet. I think that was pretty much it to my plates. I kind of loaded up on okra and a lot of the fruit.
Yeah, I'm trying to remember. I don't think you really had anything else.
I think that was pretty much it.
The kids were pretty similar in what they had too. You know, burgers and things like that.
Fries.
Some chicken, fries.
They did have fries here.
That is one key difference between here and Castaway's barbecue is there were French fries here. And nothing hits like a Disney French fry when you are just like, I need food to fill me up at the beach or in the parks. So I got some of the Disney fries.
Snacky.
I had my crispy chicken sandwich the same as I had at Cookie's. But I also had that gumbo jambalaya dish that I mentioned before. Everything was really good, fresh like Jen said, especially that pineapple. Pineapple's my favorite fruit. It was really good. It made me in the mood for a Dole Whip, but could not find any on that island. Of course,
there is soft serve ice cream though.
Yes, there was unlimited ice cream, which we did partake that day because it was quite the scorcher. Now, it is nice that the seating areas that you have for True Barbecue are extremely covered.
Very well.
There is not a lot of shade along the island itself, except for these seated covering areas and some of the activity areas. There is plentiful shade there to make sure that you are staying cool. One other thing that if you've seen other videos of Lookout Cay, maybe from once the island first opened, you've probably seen there were a problem with flies. We are glad to report that we saw a few of them, but nothing to the level of what when the island first opened.
They had a lot of those food fans going that just kind of whip around.
Yeah, little things that do
spin
this.
and just kind of bother the flies, and so they kind of go away. They also had really big fans off in the corners of the seated areas, which not only blew flies away and deterred them, but kept everyone cool. So it was a double bonus there and very, very helpful. I will make mention too, the island does have trees if you're concerned about shade not in the seating areas. It's just not, it's new, it's still growing. It's just gonna take a little bit of time for it to kind of get enough root and grow into big plentiful shade outside of those seated areas. In the meantime, you've got the seated areas as well. But again, no issues with flies for us, at least on this trip.
Yes, and thankfully for that, it was no disruption to our meals. So like we said, we did the ice cream as well. We had a couple other desserts, some cookies there too. There were no brownies. Fudgy brownies like I had at Castaway.
But
they have French fries, so I can forgive them for
I
that.
will okay it because of the fried okra alone and the fresh pineapple. I'm good with that.
Yeah, so we actually did take that time to also put on sunscreen again too, because we knew we were going to be spending the rest of our day outside primarily, combined with the kids' water play area that we wanted to spend some good time with our kids. And also the highlight and the most exciting thing that was on the docket for me at least was the Junkanoo Celebration. So this is directly where we headed after lunch. We timed things up to where we could relax a lot and cool off before going over to the cultural center and watching the Junkanoo show.
You watch this from outside, so that cooling off and resting part was key to make sure we were able to fully enjoy and partake in the show.
Yes, and unfortunately, we did not time it out right to where we could have done the activity prior to the show, where you can make your own Junkanoo headdress.
We really wanted to do that.
That is definitely a next time thing. We're going to be doing
Very
that
much.
Because our kids were definitely interested in that too. So we're going to take the time to do that. But we lined up right outside the Goombay Cultural Center, and we were able to partake in some of the festivities of the show before joining the big parade along the island. And I've got full video of that I'll throw in here in just a second. But Jen, this was my favorite part, like I said, of the day on Lookout Cay. I know you definitely enjoyed it as well too.
Very much.
One thing we will say, and you're probably going to also want to do this when we show this video, it gets extremely loud.
Yes.
Jen's dad had an Apple Watch and it said, "You are in a loud environment." It's one of those like, well, no, duh kind of things, because it gets extremely loud.
This is a fantastic celebration. It's one that's traditional to the Bahamian culture. It takes place annually, but they're sharing it with you daily so that you can actually participate in it and get a feel for what it would really be like on the island during the day of celebration.
It's essentially Bahamian Christmas is actually what we found out. It falls on the Christmas season, so it is an annual tradition, like Jen said. They just do it every day for us so we can join in the fun.
Now, their costumes are incredibly amazing. They're colorful, they're bright, they're unique, they're creative. There's nothing like you have ever seen before in the best way possible. And each of the different performers has a different instrument. Some of them are more traditional, like a trumpet. Some of them are just like
Banging on a trash can.
Or little shakers. And not like maraca shakers, but just like a canister of beans shaking. So anything that you can use that would be that would create some type of music, those are all welcome and used in the Junkanoo Celebration.
I think that's enough us talking about how great this celebration was. It's time you guys see it. So take a few moments. I'm going to throw in our full Junkanoo performance in here so you guys can just see exactly what the hype is about to this great offering on Lookout Cay.
soon as we had finished with the Junkanoo Celebration and things were kind of dying down, we went to go check out Gush Out. Now, unfortunately, it was closed. They were having to do some testing on the water and update some things. So we pivoted and we decided to go shopping instead. There's a couple different places that you could go shopping because this was on our to-do list too. We wanted to make sure that we didn't leave Lookout Cay without some Lookout Cay merch and some specific Bahamian goods. So there's 2 different places that you can go shopping. There's obviously the Disney location that's got more of your traditional shirts like we got. And again, these will be in more of our haul of what all we got. We'll show them in greater detail later.
And that shop is aptly named Disney Tings in kind of the island accent, as you will.
So there's all kinds of things. There's little plushies. There's more Junkanoo shirts. There's some really pretty dresses. There's your traditional shirts and tank tops and other things that you can get. Your goggles, your sunscreen if you missed them at the last things, first things stop or on the boat. But then there's also a Bahamian store that's very much run like a co-op, is how I would describe it.
There's a lot of very unique, handmade, beautiful creations in that store. Jewelry, magnets, I think there were snow globes in there,
purses and bags.
All sorts of things.
A lot of these things also pulled inspiration or actual pieces from the natural environment of Eleuthera itself.
Like the pink sand. Yeah. So, and as Jen mentioned, the Disney shop, we are, of course, going to do our haul like we've mentioned a couple times now, but you're getting a peek at a couple of the pieces now because Jen's got her Lookout Cay tank top on and I've got my Donald Junkanoo shirt. I've fought to make sure they had the right size in this one because Donald Duck is my personal favorite character and I was going to be real disappointed if they didn't have this. And that is a lesson to be taken in this. Merchandise runs out very quickly on Lookout Cay because it is very, very exclusive and limited. I actually saw a magnet earlier in the day that caught my eye. There was like, ooh, that looks nice. I'll look at that later. And it was gone by the time we went back to that shop.
I didn't know about that.
Yeah.
So we'll definitely be on the lookout for that next time, but let that be a lesson to you. Don't be like us and necessarily wait till the end of the day. If you see something that you'd like to go ahead and get, normally I would say wait till the end or wait till the sale, but don't do that in this case. No. Definitely go ahead and get it.
If you see it, go ahead and get it and just find a way to carry it with you. Yeah. Especially shirts like this and the Loungefly bags that look like the Junkanoo design. You can kind of see a little bit in the back there what the shirt looks like. There's one of these for each one of the Fab 5 characters on the island, and they sell out very quickly and have very limited sizes. So if you want one of these, go ahead and grab it.
If you don't get one of those, they have photo ops with the Junkanoos themselves for each of the different characters. So definitely hit those up as well. But if you want something to be able to take home and show off while wearing, definitely try and get those early.
Also, another note, we found sizing is very different on the island. So like, for example, this is a size down from what I normally wear, but it wears just like what my normal sizing is. I think some of our kids' stuff was also very wide ranging in sizes too. So that's something to know. Like, you're gonna wanna make sure you're holding these things up, trying them on if you can, because this is your only chance to buy this. You can't return it once you have it. So
our kids, I think, had to go up a size. He went down a size, and I was the same size. So we all were in different places. So just make sure before you purchase anything, it's exactly the size that you need and want, or at least that you want to try.
Yeah. Well, so that was everything we did for shopping. Actually, as the time we left the island, the shops were already closed. So make sure you're doing that too. Hitting it way before probably 4 o'clock was about shutdown time for those stores. So make sure you're hitting those at an earlier time. But once we were done with the shopping, we were able to return to Gush Out, and they were finally open after their cleanup and testing of the water. And we were able to spend some time in there with our kids. And
it was really nice because there weren't a whole lot of people there since it had closed earlier. That kind of sent a lot of people back to the ship earlier. So when we hung around and then got to go back, we got to explore more of Gush Out with the kids.
Yeah, and it's a lot of fun. So this is a kids' water play area to the max. There's a couple slides in there. There's some splash pad areas, some of your big dump tanks and stuff that you normally have in those areas. Yeah, especially getting us wet. And of course, it was hot, so one of the times I don't mind actually getting
I'll
wet.
just stand under it. You can dump it on me all day.
But like I said, I'll throw in some of the video of one of the slides here so you guys can see. They were very tight and very fast. Of course, they're not made for people like me who are 6 feet tall, but a lot of fun.
Adults are allowed on these as long as there's not too many kids in the area. So we were able to actually go enjoy the slides and the play area with our kids, which was really nice. One other key thing to note that's different between this water park, so to speak, as opposed to the one on Castaway, it is not on the salt water. It is on land, so it is fresh water. So if you are tired of salt water or your kid doesn't do well with salt water, it drains them, they don't like the grainier feel of it or the taste, this freshwater play area is prime spot for them and for you to hang out. And it's right next to the restrooms as well. So especially if you've got littles and they need to kick it to the restroom, it's not that far of a walk.
Yeah, and there's plenty of seating right outside of the play area for families to be able to put their stuff down. We did, and we were able to be relatively close to that.
Yeah.
And we spent about maybe 30 to 45 minutes in there just spending the rest of our time playing. We basically did first half of the day open ocean, second half of the day in the water play area before we decided to say it was time to go back to the ship because we were cutting a little bit closer to our all aboard time this time than what we did on the first day at Castaway, as we didn't have dinner reservations to get ready for.
That's true. We did get out to the island a little bit later, so we did kind of push that envelope a little bit more because we wanted to enjoy the time on the island that we had a little bit more. And part of that, I think too, at least for me, was when we got up to the top of Rush Out, Gush Out, you could see the entire beach. And it was so beautiful. I could just stand there all day while the kids are just running around and laughing and playing and having fun. And we're standing in the cool and getting wet and have that beautiful view.
Yeah, just sit up there, grab a chair and a book and like, okay, I'm just going to stay here. Lifeguard, don't mind me. I'm good.
Yeah, so we really kind of pushed it. We let the kids do one more slide race. Then maybe just one more and one more.
And one more. And I think maybe one more after that too.
And then we finally did call it and say we do have to get ready because we have to get ready for dinner ultimately. But since we didn't have a dinner reservation, it was part of our rotational dining. We felt we were okay pushing that envelope just a little bit more to enjoy the island.
Yeah. So sadly, we had to take the tram ride back to the welcome area of Lookout Cay. But we'll come back in just a second to talk about what getting off the island is like as we get ready to shut down our day at Lookout Cay and get ready for a very exciting night aboard the Disney Fantasy.
So that pretty much wraps up our day at Lookout Cay. We went ahead after that and got on the tram. We rode the tram back to the ending point for the pier to get out to the ship. And during that tram ride, again, those characters that have been created talk to you. They tell you that they hope you have enjoyed your day, that you'll get to come back and see them. They play some of the music that is unique and especially made for the island by Bohemian artists, which is one soundtrack I would just love to have playing constantly in my house.
Yeah.
If we could have, certain like speakers everywhere.
We're big on Disney background music, so
Yes.
that's definitely one I'm going to have to hunt down because we'll add that into the repertoire of what we listen to while we're cleaning the house and on the weekends and such.
But it was a really nice way to kind of relax and take in the environment and the cultural components to the beautiful island of Eleuthera as we were getting ready to head out and end our day.
Yeah, and as we mentioned, at the very beginning of this, we had First Chance store. Now we have the Last Chance store, and it was actually closed by the time we got there. So we were cutting it pretty darn close. We were probably within the last 100 or so people that got back on the boat. It was about 4 o'clock that we made it to the pier again. By the time we finished our walking back up to our room, it was about 4:30.
Yeah.
And we could see the very last few people coming on board up before the 4:45 all aboard call. So make sure you keep in mind that that long walk on the pier does take time, and you need to account for that.
And by the end of the day, you're a little bit more tired.
You walk a little bit slower.
You're still looking at the beautiful waters and seeing the animals, and so that part is still exciting. But you might be just walking a little bit slower because it is later in the day. You're more tired. The sun is a little bit more beating on you than it was earlier in the morning. So just do make sure that you factor that in. Now,
this time actually too, there was no of the cooling towel or the water stations when we got there. Now, this may have just because been that we were so late getting on the boat. It's not necessarily that they don't do this. I think we've seen in other videos that they had this.
It could also just be that maybe that day was not the day for it.
Yeah.
Maybe they flip their days that they offer them, one day at Castaway, and then the next time they take this itinerary, maybe they do it at Lighthouse. We're not sure, but it was not there when we went this particular day.
Yeah, so keep an eye on it. If you ever go to Lookout Cay, maybe see what you will find for the cooling towels and such. But we made our way back onto the boat, up into our rooms, and we made it just in time to be able to see the cast members wave goodbye to us with their Mickey hands.
Those Mickey hands just get me every time. There's something special. There's something special about just being waved goodbye to or welcomed into, but then also adding an extra Mickey hand to it just makes it feel even more magical. That may just be me, but
things taste better when they're in the shape of Mickey Mouse, and things just feel better when they're in the shape of Mickey Mouse's hands waving to you. So we actually got a double dose of something that we normally get one time on our cruise day. It's time for another round of Guess That Towel Animal. So we were surprised when we came back from our day at Lookout Cay that our housekeeper was able to put up another towel animal for us. So we'll see if maybe you can get this one. And then after we do that, we're going to come back and we're going to tease what our next adventure has in store. And adventure is key into what is coming next.
So, how'd you do? We love this particular one because it was so unique. Again, they will use props. If you've got them laid out in the room, they'll use those interspersed with your towel animal. So this one was really cool. He was like our little sailor guy, and we loved getting to come in and see the whole way that each of the different pieces from our room was used in with it.
Yeah, it's fun to see the hat that one of our people in our company had used within that design. So our stateroom host was really good at piecing together different things. And
Very creative.
You'll see more of that as time goes on, which actually leads us into one of the more special ones that you'll see in our next video, because after our day at Lookout Cay, we went back, we changed, got ready, cleaned off and such, and we were getting ready for
a very exciting night. Pirate night.
Pirate night, that's right. The most exciting time on a Disney cruise when everything is taken over by pirates. This is a special menu for the kids that you will have that I can open up and show you all the different foods. You've got different menus, you've got different shows, and of course the highlight to everything, the only cruise line in the world that can do this.
Fireworks.
Fireworks at sea. But if you want to see that, you're going to have to come and watch our next video, because this is where we're going to stop and tease you just a little bit with Pirate Night. Well, like I said, that's going to do it for today. Thank you for joining us again as we continue our Disney Fantasy Cruise series. This is episode 4 at this point now. If you've missed any of the first 3, make sure you go back and watch those. We'll link them all down below for you so you can easily check those out. Make sure you like and subscribe. And Jen, I think we're really excited to talk about Pirate Night next time.
So much. This was one of my favorite nights of the entire cruise. I think I've said that for every night of the cruise, but this one was different in a very exciting way. So an entirely different atmosphere takes over, but I'm not going to spoil it. You'll have to wait until next time.
Yeah, so if you want to see that, make sure you come back and check out more of the Disney Pros. For Jen, I'm Zach. Thanks for joining us, and we will see you next time, mateys. Arr! Arr.